Once upon a time, in the distant village of Ikpa, there lived a young lady named Adaobi. She was a young, beautiful lady and the dream of every young man in the village. Adaobi lived with her parents and was finally planning on getting married. Nonso asked her to marry him, and she accepted. Adobe's father was fulfilled that his daughter would be getting married with honor, while her mother would not stop dishing out marital advice to her. On the day fixed for the wedding, everything was set, and Adaobi and her family were waiting for Nonso to arrive with his family, but they were nowhere to be found. They waited and waited, but Nonso and his people did not arrive. After what seemed like ages, Adobe's father had to send someone to go and check what was delaying their in-laws from coming. And to their greatest shock, Nonso bluntly told them that he was not interested in marrying Adaobi again. This was strange, and all efforts to get Nonso to say the reason for his decision proved abortive, as Nonso refused to give any reason whatsoever. Adaobi was heartbroken. She did not believe Nonso would do such a thing to her. He was the first man that had asked her to marry him, and she agreed, trusting him fully, only for him to break her heart in this way. Following the failed wedding, Adaobi would stay indoors for days, refusing to go anywhere or do anything. Her mother consoled her, urging her to see the good in what happened. Adam, you can't keep on starving yourself and crying yourself out. What has happened has happened. And if you ask me, I would say you should be glad that Nonso showed his true character now. What if you had married him and then gotten pregnant only for him to leave you? It would have been more painful. So look on the brighter side. Everything happens for our good. Adaobi was moved by her mother's words and soon got over the heartbreak. She returned to her normal self and went about with her normal activities. It was not long before she heard that Nonso had gotten married to another girl. She was not bothered though, as it became clear that Nonso was definitely a wrong choice for her. It is better to have a broken engagement than to have a broken marriage, Adaobi said to console herself. One day, Adaobi was returning from the market where she had gone to buy vegetables for her mother, when a young man called out to her. She turned to see who it was, and it turned out to be Emeka, a young man she had known to be her secret admirer. She was surprised and wondered why he suddenly decided to approach her. Emeka walked up to her and said, "Adaobi, how are you?" She replied, "I am fine." He then said to her, "I saw you when you were going to the market earlier, and now I am seeing you again. I know this is not a coincidence. It is a sign of something good. Adaobi, I must be honest with you. I have loved you for ages, but found it difficult to walk up to you for fear of what you might say. But I can't continue holding it in again. Please, Ada, I would like us to be friends. You can take your time if you want to, but please don't say no." Adaobi blushed. "I know you to be a good man, and I don't think it will be a bad thing for us to be friends. So yes, I will be your friend," Adaobi replied. Emeka was really happy. He thanked her and offered to walk her home. From then, Emeka and Adaobi became very good friends. They would meet every other day, and slowly their friendship grew into love. It wasn't long before Emeka declared his intentions of marriage to Adaobi, and she accepted to marry him. They fixed a date, made every necessary arrangements, but on the day of the wedding, Emeka did not show up, and when someone was sent to his house, he was not there. Apparently, He had run away. Adaobi parents were shocked at this news. What was the meaning of this? And why were these men doing this to their daughter? When Adaobi heard that Emeka had run away and would not come, she fainted. When she was revived, she cried uncontrollably. She could not believe this happened to her again. What did she ever do to these men to disappoint her like this? Even Emeka, who had been there for a very long time, he had been admiring her. So why did he jilt her too? Her mother was really worried this time, and she asked Adaobi, "Did you and Emeka have any arguments?" Adaobi replied no, and added that even as of the previous day, they were together and Emeka said he could not wait to get married to her. So she did not understand his sudden disappearance. Her mother was surprised and confused, but she assured Adaobi to not walk up herself, as she would soon see a man who will stand by her and not disappoint her. Adaobi still wondered why these men would even propose marriage to her in the first place and then choose to embarrass her like this. Were they doing it on purpose to embarrass her? She finally concluded that all men were the same and that she would never agree to marry anyone again. Adaobi carried on with her life and avoided anything that had to do with men. She also decided to learn a skill and chose to learn sewing. She was determined to become the best that she could be and not let her situation bring her down. Her life was going on smoothly, and about a year after Emeka jilted her, she had advanced so well and was in a better place. She had even opened up a small shop where she sold clothes for people. One day, a young man came to her shop to amend his clothes. He was directed by someone to Adaobi's shop. She amended it for him and he left. The next day, this young man saw Adaobi walking along the road and he tried to greet her, but she walked past him without even casting a glance at him. He was shocked but got over it. 1 week later, this young man came to Adaobi's shop again, bringing a few clothes he needed to amend. As he sat there waiting for her to amend them, he observed Adaobi and noticed that she had a mean look on her face, as if she was deliberately avoiding anyone from talking to her. He decided to strike up a conversation with her. "You're such an amazing tailor, I must say. My name is Duim. What is yours?" But Adaobi continued sewing, pretending to not hear him. He continued, "It seems you don't like to talk to strangers. Well, that is okay, but I don't think I am a stranger again. We have met for 3 times now, even though we have not talked before." Adaobi finished with his clothes and gave it to him. He paid her, but before she could bring out his change, he stood up and left, telling her to keep the change. Adaobi stood there looking at him as he left. She was not comfortable with this young man and had a feeling that he wanted something she could not give. She would, however, not go back on her words of staying away from men. On another day, Duim met Adaobi on the way and shouted to call her, "Auntie Taylor, Auntie Taylor." Adaobi looked around and felt awkward. She quickly shunned Duim. "Don't call me that. My name is not Auntie Taylor." Duim, seeing that he had her attention, told her, "I will continue calling you that if you don't tell me your name." Adaobi then had no choice than to tell him her name and walked away. Duim smiled to himself as he was finally making progress. On different occasions, Duim would try to engage in a conversation with Adaobi, but she would only reply him with a single word and leave. Then on this day, he came to Adaobi's shop. When she saw him, she thought he wanted to amend his clothes, but he said he didn't come to amend clothes, but to talk with her. "Adaobi, I have observed you don't like associating with men. You avoid men at any given opportunity, and I know you won't be doing that without any reason. Something must have triggered you to become like this. Do you mind sharing your story with me? Adobe looked at him for a while before speaking up. You men are just the same. You only know how to hurt a woman you claim to love. So why should I not stay away from men? Duim pressed further, asking her what happened, and she told him how she was jilted by two men who wanted to marry her on her wedding day. Duim was shocked and could not even blame her for avoiding men. That was pure wickedness. He then asked her, "But do you think there might be an underlying reason for their actions?" She replied him that she did not know, as the men never even gave her any reason or explanation. Duim continued to visit Adobe at her shop, but she had warned him that she was not interested in any intimate relationship, and so he bore that in mind. They became really close friends, and Adobe became comfortable with him. However, after some months of being friends, Duim wanted more. He brought it up to Adobe that she cannot be single forever. She needed to give marriage a chance, but Adobe was not willing to take any more risk, and so she turned him down immediately. But Duim would not give up. He swore to Adobe that he would never leave her, and even went as far as meeting with her mother. "Mama, I love Adobe so much. I promise to not disappoint her, but she is not even giving me a chance," Duim lamented. Adobe's mother then told Duim that her daughter was just being cautious and did not want any more heartbreaks, but she would talk to Adobe and try to convince her to have a change of heart. After her mother spoke to her, Adobe decided to accept Duim's marriage proposal, but she had a condition. No one must know about it. It will be indoors and just between our families. I don't want to suffer a larger shame in case anything wrong happens. I will know I don't have to face people. Duim told Adobe to stop being negative and look up to the brighter side, but then he accepted her terms. The date for the wedding was fixed, and the wedding was going to take place inside the sitting room. They were going to pay the bride price, pray for the couple, and celebrate in a small way. Everything was set and the day came. Adobe had told Duim to arrive at her father's house before 9 a.m. She did not want to take chances at all. By 9 a.m., Adobe had prepared and was waiting for Duim and his uncle. She sat at the front of the house waiting for them. Unfortunately, 3 hours later, they had still not arrived. Adobe was starting to lose hope, but decided to wait more and see if they would come. She waited for more 3 hours, but she did not see them. At this point, her heart shattered into pieces. She fell to the ground crying. Her mother came out to console her. "Mama, I told you, they are just the same. Duim disappointed me too. I will never recover from this." Her mother did not know what to say. She just held her daughter, feeling sorry that she had to go through these things. Adobe went inside the house to change her clothes when her mother started shouting, "Adobe, come out, come and see." Adobe came out immediately and was shocked when she saw Duim, his uncle, and another man coming into their compound. She would still not believe her eyes as she ran to hug Duim, crying, "You came? You didn't jilt me?" Duim cleaned her tears. "I told you, I will not leave you." They then went inside the house. Adobe's father asked Duim why he came late, and Duim explained everything to them. I did not intend to be late. In fact, I had planned to be here by 8 a.m. But last night when I slept, I had an attack. I don't know if it was a dream or in reality, but a huge giant came to threaten me. He warned me to not marry Adobe because she was his wife, and that if I went on with the wedding, he would kill me on the wedding night. He strangled me on my neck. If you look well, you will see some bruises on my neck. I was very scared and didn't know what to do. So I went to tell my uncle, who took me to see his pastor. The pastor had to make intense prayers for us before we came. That is why we came late. Adobe and her parents were shocked. Husband? Adobe had never been married before, so who could be this man that was threatening her suitors? The pastor then asked Adobe's parents if they could remember ever initiating Adobe into any fetish kingdom, but they denied ever doing such. As the pastor was praying, his eyes caught sight of a small mark on Adobe's left shoulder, and he asked them what that mark was. Adobe's mother told him that it was when Adobe had fallen sick at a very tender age that she took her to a dibia who treated her and gave her that mark to prevent the sickness from coming back. The pastor then revealed to them that the mark was an evil initiation and that it opened the door for a very powerful evil spirit to enter into her. This spirit was her spiritual husband, and that he was a very jealous one and would never allow any other man to marry her. Adobe could feel cold chills on her body at this time, as the realization dawned on her. So this was the cause of the heartbreaks and rejections she had faced from her suitors. Adobe begged the pastor to help her cut these ties with this spiritual husband. And the pastor prayed for her and she was delivered. Duim then went on to pay her bride price and the marriage rites were completed. The pastor prayed for them and blessed their marriage. Adobe brought favor and progress to her husband. Their marriage blossomed and they went on to have 3 children. Thank you for watching this story. One important lesson this story offers is for us to be careful of where we run to seek for solutions to our problems, because it might haunt us later in the future. Please share with us in the comment section what you learned from this story. Don't forget to subscribe and like this story. Also share it with your loved ones too, and stay blessed.